Hello. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to do some brutal extreme testing on this blade. I made this blade from a flat file and ground it down. It has a convex edge. It's a 1/4 inch thick. I took my homemade forge, I heat treated it, and then I tempered it, drilled the holes for my scales. Now these scales are not to fit. These ones here are something I put on here temporarily, though they work really well. Not sure if I'll change them or not. But this blade is not designed for these scales. And the Chicago screws in here are a little bit short, so I wrap tape around it because they do hold, but just for reinforcement so the scales don't pop off. But the knife has, pretty good balance, really, with those scales. So I'm going to do some extreme testing because I want to know what this will do. Doing this at home, I do not know the hardness of the blade or anything like that. So the only way I can know its capabilities is out here testing it. This here is a survival knife, and I have to know what its limitations are. Although in a survival situation, don't push your knife. You treat that like your life depends on it, because it may depend on it. You don't go out there and beat your knife to death in a survival situation unless you absolutely have to, because you want to make sure it's there when you need it. That's why I am testing my blade first, so I know the limitations of it and how far I can push it. So let's get down to some beating and smashing and just testing out the edge on this blade, and if it's going to break or not. I may break this in half. We shall see. This here is a dead birch tree, but you can hear it's solid. So I'm going to see how this works in just beating on this and trying to see how far this thing chops. This has a convex edge, like I said, so it's not going to go in as deep as a hollow grind or a flat grind, but it should work pretty well. Let's see. Worked really well with that. A survival blade has to be able to cut down saplings, and this here is a good 3 inches, so it's got to be able to cut stuff like that for me, so I know I can build a decent shelter or get firewood. For our next test, I'm going to baton this straight down through. I can see there's a crack going up through and off to the side. This is not straight grained. This is going to put a lot of pressure on this blade, but it's a very good test. So I'm going to start right over here like this and just start going. There's one piece. Okay, I'm going to just put this right over top like this and beat that right in. Just to be able to beat on it and see what kind of damage it will take. That's putting a lot of pressure because every strike is going right into that blade. And if it's going to break, this is the time it will break. I'm beating right on that, everything I got. You can see I'm going basically straight in, so I'm not trying to split this. I'm just trying to deliver as much pressure into this with the hit as I can. And then we're going to check up close the blade, and you can see it is not broke. Now we'll try splitting again. I'm thinking I'm not going to have to worry about that breaking. It's a knot right here. Go right into that knot. I just beat that blade into this, and I never recommend anybody ever prying on a knife. It's a good way to break a knife. But we're just going to see. Prying pretty good on that, and it didn't break, so I'm happy with that. But I have broken tips off of knives, good knives, by prying. I never recommend prying, like I said, unless you absolutely have to in a certain situation. You can see another dead tree, but solid again. I'm going to trim off. This one here is about an inch thick. That one's about 3/4. 5/8, you know, and so on. I'm going to trim these off because sometimes you need firewood quick. And being able to trim off branches quickly to get a fire going, to warm yourself, is very important. Plus, for brush shelters and so on, trimming branches is always a good skill, and your knife should be able to do it rather quickly. So right now we're going to get this one out of the way. And now I'm going to go down through and just see how quick I can trim this. I'd say that's rather quick. It has the weight behind it, and it just crushed as it went down through. A lot of those, it just started cutting in and then just blew them apart, and they broke off just because of the weight and the force of this blade. With the convex grind, it is round like this, so it goes in and just pushes everything outward. I'm going to show you the edge up close now. You can see there's not a chip or a ding in that blade. This is going through my chopping tests, my baton tests, and my delimbing, no problem. Very impressed with this. But survival blade also has to be able to do the finer tasks. It's got to be able to carve. Let's try that. Got this piece of hardwood here, and it's trying that, and it's carving rather nice. Fine carving as well. It works. But I'm going to put you down here and just show you some fine carving with this. I put this through some abusive tests, and I'm comfortable to say that this here has proven itself to me to be a good knife in the field. I'll continue using it, of course, and find out its, pros and cons. It is not going to carve like a Mora. It is not intended to. But a Mora can't chop like this. So there's always pros and cons to every blade. This one here is a big, hefty blade. But for me, to build shelter, to be able to get firewood, to split my firewood as such, this here would make a good companion for a knife for me. Now, there's no chips. There's, it's still straight as it was. It's still sharp even. So, I gotta say, it passes tests. Thanks for watching, and always appreciate it. Take care.